The arrow flew before anyone could shout. It sliced through the morning fog and struck the ground inches from her hand. "Don't move." Lyra Vale froze, her breath hitching as mud soaked deeper into her knees. The riverbank stank of iron and wet earth, but she didn't flinch. She didn't even look up. The small body in her arms trembled. "Stay with me," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Please, just a little longer." Boots thundered around her. Steel flashed. By the time she finally raised her head, she was surrounded. A dozen warriors. All larger. All armed. All staring at her like she was already dead. And at the center of them, a man stepped forward. Tall. Broad. Still as a storm about to break. His presence alone made the air feel heavier. "Drop him," he said. His voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. Lyra tightened her grip instinctively, pulling the broken pup closer to her chest. "I can't." A ripple of disbelief moved through the warriors. "Did you justify him?" One of them snarled. "Put the prince down," another barked. "No." Lyra shook her head, trembling, but not from fear. "He's dying," she whispered. "If I let go, he'll be alone." The man stepped closer. Now she could see his eyes. Gold. Not warm gold. Molten. Dangerous. "You're holding my son," he said quietly. Everything went still. The Alpha King. Lyra swallowed hard. "I didn't hurt him," she said quickly. "I found him like this. He was attacked." Lies. A blade pressed against her throat. Only a fool would believe a Packless Omega wandered into this territory by accident. "I didn't wander," she said, her voice rising. "I followed the screams." "Enough," the Alpha King said. Silence dropped like a blade. He crouched in front of her. Up close, he was worse. Not because of his strength, but because of the way he looked at her. Like he was trying to decide whether she was worth killing slowly. "Explain," he said. Lyra's arms tightened around the pup as his body jerked weakly. "There were shadow ravens," she said. "A whole flock. They came out of nowhere. He was alone, he didn't stand a chance." "You expect us to believe you fought them?" A warrior scoffed. She didn't answer. She didn't need to. Her arms were covered in scratches. Deep ones. Fresh ones. Blood still seeped from some of them. The Alpha King noticed. His gaze dropped, lingered, then lifted again. "What's his condition?" Lyra hesitated. Her throat tightened. "Their venom," she whispered. "It's already in his blood." The words landed like a death sentence. One of the warriors cursed under his breath. Another looked away. "No," the Alpha King said flatly. Lyra's chest ached. "I tried," she said, her voice cracking. "I carried him as fast as I could. I thought maybe if I got him back." The pup whimpered. Weak. Barely there. Every head snapped toward the sound. Lyra bent over him immediately, shielding him from the world. "It's okay," she murmured. "I'm here. I'm right here." "You will hand him over," the Alpha King said. Lyra shook her head. "No." The word shocked even her. The warriors reacted instantly, blades raised, tension snapping like a drawn bow. "You dare." "I said no," she cried, her voice breaking. "Not like this. Not while he's scared." "He's not yours," someone shouted. "I know," she snapped back, tears spilling freely now. "But he's dying and no one else is holding him." Silence. Heavy. Thick. The Alpha King stared at her. Really stared. Not at her face. Not at her defiance. At the way she held the pup. Carefully. Gently. Like he mattered. Like he wasn't already lost. The pup whimpered again. Lyra lowered her head, pressing her forehead softly to his. "Hey," she whispered. "Stay with me, little one." His breathing hitched. Erratic. Fading. Her chest tightened painfully. "No," she breathed. "No, not yet, please." Her voice broke completely. Something inside her cracked. And then, she began to sing. Softly at first. A low, trembling hum that barely rose above the wind. The warriors stiffened. "What is she doing?" one whispered. The Alpha King didn't answer. He couldn't, because he knew that sound. He hadn't heard it in years. Not since. Lyra's voice grew steadier, stronger. It wasn't a song in any language they spoke. It was older, deeper, a sound that seemed to wrap around the air itself. The pup's breathing slowed, not worse, smoother, calmer. Lyra's tears fell freely now, her voice carrying through them. "You're not alone," she murmured between notes. "You're safe. I promise." The warriors lowered their weapons just slightly. No one told them to. They just did. The Alpha King's hand loosened around his spear. The sound of her voice filled the space between heartbeats. It wasn't loud. It didn't demand attention. But it took it anyway. The pup exhaled. A long, soft breath. Then, nothing. Lyra's voice faltered. Just for a second. Then she kept going. Softer now. Gentler. As if she was guiding him somewhere. As if she refused to let him go alone. When the song finally ended, the silence that followed was unbearable. Lyra didn't move. Didn't breathe. Didn't speak. Then, a sound tore out of her. Raw. Broken. Uncontrolled. A howl. Not loud in volume, but devastating in emotion. Grief poured through it. Pain. Loss. Love. Everything she hadn't said, everything she couldn't fix. It all came out in that single, shattered cry. One of the warriors dropped his weapon. It hit the ground with a dull thud. No one reacted. Another followed. Then another. Until the clearing was filled with the sound of steel hitting earth. The Alpha King stood very still. Then slowly, he let his spear fall. Lyra barely noticed. She was still clutching the lifeless body, rocking slightly as tears soaked into the pup's fur. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry." Footsteps approached. She stiffened. For a moment, she thought they would take him by force. Instead, a shadow fell over her. "Give him to me." Her grip tightened instinctively. "No," she whispered. "Not again. Not like this." "I won't hurt you," the Alpha King said. She laughed weakly. "Everyone says that before they do." "I won't," he repeated. Something in his voice made her look up. The anger was gone. The coldness too. What replaced it was something else. Something heavier. "I need to take him home," he said quietly. Lyra's throat tightened. "She should know," she whispered. His mother, she should know he wasn't alone. The Alpha King nodded once. Slow. Firm. "He wasn't," he said. Lyra hesitated. Then, with shaking hands, she gently lifted the pup toward him. For a second, neither of them moved. Then he took the body. Carefully. Far more carefully than she expected. Lyra's arms fell empty. The loss hit instantly. Her hands trembled. "I tried," she said, her voice barely audible. "I really tried." "I know." She looked up sharply. "You believe me?" He held her gaze. "Yes." The single word hit harder than any accusation had. Lyra's lips parted slightly. She didn't know what to say. So she said the only thing that mattered. "Let me come with you." The warrior shifted. "What?" One snapped. "You've done enough," another said. "Leave before." "I want to tell her," Lyra said, her voice steadier now. "I want to tell his mother he wasn't afraid. That he was brave." The Alpha King studied her for a long moment. Then, "You will walk with us." Shock rippled through the group. "She's Packless," someone protested. "She's under my protection now," he said calmly. That ended it. Lyra swallowed hard. Something had just changed. She didn't understand it yet, but she felt it. And as they began the long walk back, she followed. Not as a prisoner, but not quite as one of them either. Not yet. The gates of Blackthorn Hold loomed ahead like a judgment waiting to fall. Lyra slowed as the massive doors creaked open. She hadn't realized how far they'd walked, or how long she'd spent staring at the Alpha King's back, watching the way he carried the small body in his arms. Not like a king, like a father. The moment they stepped inside, everything changed. Voices spread like wildfire. They're back. The prince. Who is that with them? Lyra felt every stare, every whisper, every silent accusation pressing into her skin. She's Packless. She reeks of blood. Why is she still alive? Her steps faltered. Maybe this was a mistake. Maybe she should have turned back. But then she looked at the small, still form in the Alpha King's arms, and kept walking. The crowd parted as they approached the central courtyard. And then, she saw her. A woman stood at the top of the stone steps. Still, silent, waiting. Her eyes locked onto the bundle immediately. No, the woman whispered. The sound barely carried, but it shattered something in the air. The Alpha King didn't stop walking. Lyra did. Her feet refused to move. I can't, she murmured under her breath. You can, he said quietly, not turning around. I don't know what to say. Tell her the truth. The woman descended the steps slowly, each step heavier than the last. Darius, she said, her voice trembling now. Where is he? Lyra's chest tightened. This was his mother. The Alpha King, Darius, stopped just a few steps away from her. For a moment, he said nothing. Then carefully, gently, he lowered the small body into her arms. The woman let out a broken sound as she clutched her son to her chest. No, no, no. Kaelin, wake up. Lyra looked away. She couldn't watch. She shouldn't be here. This wasn't her place. But then, who is she? The question cut through everything. Lyra froze. Darius turned slightly. This is Lyra. The woman's eyes snapped to her. Sharp. Searching. Devastated. Why is she here? She demanded. Why does she smell like his blood? Lyra's throat closed. This was it. The blame. The hatred. The end. I found him, she said, forcing the words out. He was attacked by shadow ravens. I tried to fight them off. I carried him here as fast as I could, but the venom. You expect me to believe that? Someone from the crowd snapped. She's lying. Silence. Darius didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. The courtyard went dead quiet. He stepped forward, placing himself slightly in front of Lyra. She speaks the truth. Shock rippled through the crowd. She fought a flock alone, he continued. She carried him across hostile ground. And when there was nothing left to be done, he paused. His jaw tightened. She gave him peace. The woman's grip on her son tightened. What do you mean? She whispered. Lyra hesitated. Her hands trembled at her sides. I sang to him, she said softly. Murmurs spread. An Omega song? That's impossible. No one uses those anymore. He stopped hurting, Lyra continued, her voice shaking. He wasn't scared anymore. He just went quiet. The woman stared at her. Long hard. Lyra couldn't breathe. Then, come here. The words stunned her. I what? Come here, the woman repeated. Lyra moved slowly. Every step felt like walking toward a blade. She stopped just within reach. For a second, neither of them spoke. Then suddenly, the woman pulled her into a tight embrace. Lyra froze. Her mind went blank. I wasn't there, the woman whispered against her shoulder, her voice breaking completely. I wasn't there for him, but you were. Lyra's eyes widened. I tried. Thank you, the woman said. That was it. That was all it took. The tension snapped. Lyra broke. Her knees nearly gave out as she clung back, sobbing into the woman's shoulder. I couldn't save him, she cried. I'm so sorry. You gave him something I couldn't, the woman whispered. You gave him comfort. The courtyard fell into stunned silence. No one spoke. No one moved. Because nothing about this made sense. An Omega. Packless. held like family by their Luna. Darius turned slowly, his gaze sweeping over the crowd. From this moment forward, he said, his voice cutting clean through the silence, Lyra Vale is under my protection. Murmurs erupted instantly. You can't. She has no pack. By law. By my word, Darius said, sharper now. The air shifted. Danger crept back in, but it wasn't aimed at Lyra. It was aimed at anyone who challenged him. She will remain here, he continued, within these walls. As one of us. One of the elders stepped forward. This breaks tradition. Then tradition will bend, Darius replied coldly. The elder hesitated, then stepped back. No one else spoke. Because everyone understood what he wasn't saying. Push further. And you answer to him. Darius turned back to Lyra. For a moment, the tension faded. Come, he said quietly. She followed. Because she didn't know what else to do. Days passed. Then more. The castle didn't feel real. The silence. The space. The way no one quite knew how to treat her. Some avoided her. Some watched her. But no one touched her. Not after that day. Lyra sat alone in the garden, her fingers twisting in her lap. She still wore simple clothes. Still kept her head down. Still felt like she didn't belong. You're hiding. She looked up sharply. Darius stood a few steps away, watching her. I'm not hiding, she said. He raised a brow. You've barely left this place. She looked away. I don't want to be in the way. He walked closer. You're not. That's easy for you to say, she muttered. This is your home. And now it's yours. She shook her head. No, it's not. Silence stretched between them. Then, Darius sat beside her. Not above. Not towering. Beside. Lyra blinked in surprise. You confuse me, he said after a moment. She let out a small, humorless laugh. I confuse everyone. You had every reason to run that day, he continued. Every reason to save yourself. I couldn't, she whispered. Why? She swallowed hard. Because he needed someone. Darius studied her. Long quiet. You changed something, he said finally. She frowned slightly. What do you mean? In me, he admitted. That caught her off guard. I don't understand. I've spent years ruling through strength, he said. Through fear. Through control. His gaze shifted slightly. But you reminded me of something I lost. Lyra's chest tightened. What? He looked at her again. Compassion. The words settled between them. Heavy. Real. Lyra looked down at her hands. I'm still nothing, she said softly. I don't have a pack. I don't have a place. Darius leaned slightly closer. You have one now. She shook her head. You gave me protection. That's not the same. No, he said quietly. It's not. She looked up. His gaze held hers. Steady. Intent. I'm not asking you to stay because of obligation, he said. Her breath caught. I'm asking because I want you to. Silence. Deep. Fragile silence. Lyra's heart pounded. Why? She asked. The question came out smaller than she intended. Darius didn't look away. Because when everything else failed, he said slowly, you were the one who stayed. Her throat tightened. No one had ever said something like that to her. No one had ever seen her like that. I don't know how to belong here, she admitted. You'll learn. I might fail. Then fail, he said simply. But don't leave. Her chest rose and fell unevenly. This wasn't a command. That's what made it harder. This was a choice. Her choice. Lyra closed her eyes briefly, then opened them again. I'll stay. The words felt terrifying. And right, something shifted in the air. Subtle. Unspoken. But there. Darius exhaled quietly. Good. For the first time since that day by the river, Lyra allowed herself to breathe. Not as a survivor. Not as an outsider. But as someone who might finally belong. And sometimes, The strongest thing in a world ruled by claws and crowns is not power, not dominance, not fear, but a quiet voice that refuses to let the broken face the dark alone. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Tell me what you think Lyra's future in the pack will look like, and if her bond with Darius will grow into something even deeper. Because this is only the beginning.